Well, hello, third through sixth graders. I want to continue on with chapters 11 and 12 in the Tiger Rising for you here today. Let's just quickly, uh, briefly summarize what happened in 9 and 10. Chapter 9, we see Rob is staying home from school, and his dad wants him to go to work with him. But along through chapter 9, they reminisce quite a bit about the memory of when Rob's mother died. And then in chapter 10, we meet a new character, Willie Mae, who's the housekeeper at the motel. And she starts off by telling Rob that she can cure the rash that he has on his legs, but she pretty much indicates that it's because of the pain that's in him. If he lets the pain out, then the rash will clear up. Didn't give Rob a whole lot of hope that if he's cured, he's got to go back to school. And he's not real keen on that idea. But he realized that she didn't have a medical remedy for him. That put him a little more at ease. But anyhow, we go on with Willie Mae really impressing upon Rob that staying in school is the difference between being a hard worker like she has to be and having a better life. So let's see what happens next. That afternoon, Rob was out in front of the Kentucky Star weeding between the cracks in the sidewalk when the school bus rumbled up. Excuse me. Hey, he heard Norton Threemonger yell. Rob didn't look up. He concentrated on the weeds. Hey, disease boy, Norton shouted. We know you got. It's called leprosy. Yeah, Billy shouted, leprosy. All your body parts are going to fall off. They're going to fall off, Norton yelled. Yeah, Billy screamed. That's what I meant. Rot. They're going to rot off. Rob stared at the sidewalk and imagined the tiger eating Norton and Billy Threemonger and then spitting out their bones. Hey, Norton shouted. Here comes your girlfriend, disease boy. The bus coughed and sputtered and finally roared away. Rob looked up. Sistine was walking towards him. She was wearing a lime green dress. As she got closer, he could see that it was torn and dirty. I brought your homework, she said. She held out a red notebook stuffed full of papers. The knuckles on her hands were bleeding. Thank you, said Rob. He took the notebook. He was determined to say nothing else to her. He was determined to keep his words inside himself where they belonged. Sistine stared past him at the motel. It was an ugly two-story building, squat and small, composed entirely of cement block. The doors of each room were painted a different color, pink or blue or green. There was a chair painted in a matching color, sitting in front of each door. Why is this place called the Kentucky Star? Sistine asked. Because, said Rob, it was the shortest answer he could think of. Because why? She asked. Rob sighed. Because Beauchamp, the man who owns it, he had a horse once, named Kentucky Star. Well, said Sistine, it's a stupid name for a hotel in Florida. Rob shrugged. It started to rain. Sistine stood in front of him and continued to stare. She looked at the motel and then over at the blinking Kentucky Star sign, and then she looked back at him as if it was all a math equation and she was trying to make was trying to make come out right in her head. The rain made her hair stick to her scalp, made her dress droopy. Rob looked at her small, pinched face and her bleeding knuckles and dark eyes, and he felt something inside of him open up. It was the same way he felt when he picked up a piece of wood and started working on it, not knowing what it would be and then watching it turn into something he recognized. He took a breath. He opened his mouth and let the words fall out. I know where there's a tiger. Sistine stood in the drizzly rain and stared at him, her eyes black and fierce. She didn't say, a real one. She didn't say, are you crazy? She didn't say, you're a big old liar. She said one word, where? And Rob knew then that he had picked the right person to tell. Chapter 12. We got to walk through the woods, Rob said. He looked doubtfully at Sistine's bright dress and shiny black shoes. You can give me some of your clothes to wear, she told him. I hate this dress anyway. And so he took her to the motel room, and there Sistine stood and stared at the unmade beds and the tattered recliner. Her eyes moved over his father's gun case and then went to the macaroni pan from the night before, still sitting on the hot plate. She looked at it all the same way she had looked at the Kentucky Star sign and the motel and him, like she was trying to add it up all in her head. Then she saw his carvings, the little wooden village of odd things that he had made. He had them all on the TV dinner tray beside his bed. Oh, she said, her voice sounded different, lighter. Where'd you get those? She went and bent over the tray and studied the carvings, the blue jay and the pine tree and the Kentucky Star sign, and the one that he was particularly proud of, his father's right foot, life-size and accurate right down to the little toe. She picked them up one by one and placed them back down carefully. Where did you get them? She asked again. I made them, said Rob. She did not doubt him, as some people would. Instead, she said, Michelangelo, the man who painted the Sistine ceiling, he sculpted too. You're a sculptor, she said. You're an artist. Nah, said Rob. He shook his head. He felt a hot wave of embarrassment and joy roll over him. It lit his rash on fire. He bent and rubbed his hands down his legs, trying to calm them. When he straightened back up, he saw that Sistine had picked up the carving of her. He had left it lying on his bed, intended to work on it again in the evening. He held his breath as she stared at the piece of wood. It looked so much like her, with her skinny legs and small eyes and defiant stance, that he was certain she would be angry. But once again, she surprised him. Oh, she said, her voice full of wonder, it's perfect. It's like looking at a little wooden mirror. She stared at it a minute more and then carefully laid it back down on his bed. Give me some clothes, she said, and we'll go see the tiger. He gave her a pair of pants and a t-shirt and left the room and went outside to wait for her. It was still raining, but not hard. He looked at the falling Kentucky Star. He thought for a minute about one of the hot wishes he had buried deeper. A friend. He stared at the star and felt the hope and need and fear course through him in a hot neon arc. He shook his head. Nah, he said to the Kentucky Star. Nah. And then he sighed and stuck his leg out into the rain, hoping to cool them off, hoping to get some small amount of relief. And that's where it ends. Chapter 12. Well, this is an interesting development, isn't it? So on the next day, when Sistine comes home from school, Rob finally lets somebody know about the tiger. Now, I wonder what's going to happen in the next 2 chapters. Have a good day, kids. I hope you're following along in the story and making notes of all the high points as we go along and the descriptions of the settings and the characters, and even predicting in your own thoughts what might be coming next as we continue to read The Tiger Rising. Have a good day, stay safe, stay out of trouble, and be kind to people.